Okay, next up in the pipe is the modifications to the T1 Ranger. I took the GPS out of the front here, moved it to the back here so I could put this walk snail system in the front. I don't have any kind of telemetry at all. There doesn't seem to be a way to put a SD card in that flight controller, so there's no data flash logs. There's no telemetry to the ground. Well, CRSF, I could make more use of that, but I haven't yet. I've just got to have some way to see what it's doing, what the battery voltage is. It could be as simple as that one thing. Am I destroying my LiPo battery because the battery voltage is too low? I don't know. Well, telemetry from the walk snail back to an OSD is a form of telemetry. Some people have been using telemetry in that form and don't think it's anything like telemetry radios and stuff, but if you take that away from them, they'll be screaming, "Give me back my telemetry. I can't see my battery voltage." Of course they would. Telemetry is very important in these. So I'm going to put the walk snail in the front. I'm going to order a H743 wing for this today and swap out the flight controller in the future soon, because even though I'm going to put this walk snail in it so I have a form of telemetry to the ground, I'm going to put a pan and tilt on it to hold the camera, but I can't use it. There's no connections on that flight controller for me to do a pan and tilt. So I've got to replace the flight controller. That's all there is to it. So Bonafide Pirate has come up with some things here that are just killer when he did his T1 modifications. And this is some of his parts. A little thing for the front to sort of support the servo. I'll show you how that works here in a second. And a holder for the walk snail. Got 4 screws in the bottom, and this goes underneath there in that position. And I'm going to have to cut out a place here to slide that in. I think I'm going to slide it in from the front rather than the back. We'll see how that works out. And then, like I say, Bonafide Pirate really has this stuff. Man, can't believe it. Put this servo in here as if it's going to be the bottom for my pan servo. Take this little, I forget what he calls it. It basically just fits around it and goes into the top perfectly. That servo is sort of captured. I mean, I will hot glue it and stuff, but that does such a good job. I cannot believe it. Now, also he makes this little pan and tilt. Yeah, doesn't look like much, does it? But that's all that's needed. There's the top part for the camera, for the tilt. There's the bottom part for the pan. This just goes right on top of that. And this mounts in the front and holds the camera. Now, I won't be able to turn it at first until I replace the flight controller. But it'll be there waiting on the flight controller. It'll be holding my camera. It will be giving me a form of telemetry back to the ground. And I will be much happier. Plus, I can see out the front of the platform with the camera when I'm flying. So that's what I'm going to do here today, I hope. We'll see how far I get. Well, there's the front grille installed. Not really installed yet. I've cut out the foam to be able to slide it in. I slid it in from the front. Now I have to mount the walk snell in it. Sorry about the battery charger noise. Now I have to mount the walk snell in it and the servo stuff on top, and we'll be in business. Well, there you go. The walk snell is mounted. Transmitters in there, in the Bonafide Pirate VTX holder. Got 4 screws to go to the bottom, fit perfectly in the bottom of the transmitter and hold it up off the bottom so that air circulation gets on both sides. Just pushed a hole through the top with a wooden skewer, and then if we can see on the inside, there we go. A little light on the subject. There we go. We'll get it eventually here. There you go. That's how it is mounted. MIPI cable comes out over the top, goes up through the hole in the back. On the right's the cable to put new firmware in it. On the left's the cable that goes back to the UART and to power. And the little antenna is just sticking up right there. That's all there is to that. Now, next is to put on the pan and tilt and connect it all up. But I immediately ran into a problem on the pan and tilt by the fact that the distance between these two places to put the tilt servo in is not big enough for my servo. Whoops, sorry about that. Not big enough for my servo to go between those 2 points. So I'm going to have to add a few millimeters between these two with Tinkercad and reprint that part, and then we'll see what we got. There we go. Now it fits in there quite well. Just made it a little bit longer. Well, there's the pan and tilt. A 270-degree servo on the bottom. Just a regular Emax up here for the pan. And a connecting rod there with M2 threaded rod in there with 2 ball end, I don't know what you call them. Had to take the ball end, had to take the ball end out of this side, put it in a drill press and drill it out a little bit so that screw could go through. But that's it. We're going to mount that up now. Well, big time bummer. That MIPI cable right there is not long enough to do what I want to do. So I'm going to have to take this back apart, take the box snell out, take it back out of the holder, take the back off of the camera, and put this longer cable I have that I had been saving for when the 7-inch got switched over to walk snell after flying it with the analog. And hopefully this cable will be long enough. Isn't that crazy? All right, there we go. The cable worked. Did exactly what I needed. You can see it coming up over the top. That servo cable for the tilt servo is there too, with some length on it, and it's enough for the whole mechanism to rotate around. It won't go that far, but either direction. How about that? I'm glad I had that cable here. I'll have to order another one now for the 7-inch. And my pan and tilt tries to hit the antenna. Yeah, there we go. That's as high as the antenna is going to be able to come, or it'll get hit. and I put the servo, there was a little bit of offset in it. I put the extra to the front so I can have a little more sticking out over the front. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Yeah, it'll be looking almost straight down. Okay, I like that. It's going to be a little center of gravity problem, but we can handle that at that time. And there's a side view of it. I think it's going to work. So here's that special cable. It can be built from two of the cables out of the He-Wing if you have them. This is the side for the walk snail transmitter. This 3-pin connector is for UART2. There's 5 volts out of this UART, which is not quite enough for the walk snail. So we're going to use this one in the second pin of the next door camera port, and we're going to pick up 9 volts there, and that should supply the walk snail much better. So there we have it. The connector to pick up 9 volts plugged into the camera port, and the cable to pick up ground and the transmit and receive for OSD in the UART2 port. That's all there is to that. And there you go. That's looking out the front of the T1 Ranger. That's what I need. And now I'll have both the telemetry, that is the simple camera signal coming back down so I can see where I'm going, period. And then on top of that, telemetry where I can see battery voltage, satellites, etc., etc., etc. Gotta have telemetry. Just got to. Okay, so I put this cabling down this side here, little hot glue on it in 3 places to hold it. These 2 cables are just going to have to hang out till there's a flight controller to hook them to. There's just not a flight controller to hook them to right now. And this little cable is for connecting to do firmware upgrades. I'm going to hot glue it up right over here. Okay, the little battery holder, I had to move it back a little bit to try to get a CG, and it looks like I'm going to have to put some lead weight in it because there's just a lot of new weight right up here. And I'm going to have to look up where the CG is. If I do it based on the back holding this right here, it seems nose heavy. Or if I put my fingers under the wings on the spar, it seems nose heavy. So I'm going to have to add a little lead weight someplace. But there it is, closed up, upgraded, closed up. Of course, the GPS being moved back there, replacing nothing, was not going to compensate for this weight. There's the Mobius. I just added double-sided tape on the top for that last flight so I would get something. I guess I could put this back there or something. That would compensate my CG. I've got to look up on the internet where the CG is for this darn thing. Well, the upgrades to the T1 Ranger kind of stepped on the remaiden of the 5-inch today. Day's not over yet, but it did take a lot of time out. But now there are 2 to remaiden, the He-Wing VTOL and the 5-inch. I don't know if I will get to them till tomorrow or not. I'm not even sure what time it is right now. But except for finding the CG on this big bad boy and making sure I get it close enough to keep from crashing it, it's ready for a second maiden flight. And I have a semblance of telemetry now, at least enough to know when my battery's low. And I can also see what I'm going. I'm more interested in the number of sats locked up, etc., than I am the camera portion of it. The OSD is just more important as telemetry. But the camera itself is a second form of telemetry that is useful. So we'll see when we get these two remaidened. All right, guys. Thank you.